Discover how a 12-year-old immigrant revolutionized Levi's during the Wild West gold rush. Mateo stepped off the rickety ferry and into the frenzy of San Francisco. The air buzzed with excitement and the clamor of shovels and picks, all driven by dreams of gold. He stood there, a 12-year-old boy clutching a tattered bag while a billion hopes danced in his heart. His homeland was far behind, yet the weight of his family rested heavily on his small shoulders. Gold wasn't the only treasure he sought. It was a brighter future for his mother and sisters back in Mexico. As he entered the Levi's factory, he could taste the ambition lingering in the air, sharp and sweet like fresh denim. Workers moved with a rhythm of toil, their faces a tapestry of stories etched with sweat and struggle. But there was Mr. Thompson, looming like a storm cloud over a summer day, his cruel eyes dismissing anyone who dared to stand out. Mateo shivered inside, feeling the oppressive weight of judgment directed at immigrants like himself. Yet, unlike many, the flicker of hope burned brightly within Mateo. With each passing day, he bonded with the laborers around him, men who had turned exhaustion into a means of connection. They shared laughter and dreams of prosperity over breaks amidst the clattering machines, each stitch encapsulating a shared desire for dignity. His heart raced as he crafted a brilliant idea, an innovative design for sturdy denim, something the miners could wear while they toiled under the blazing sun. He envisioned jeans that would embody both function and style, a testament to strength and pride. But when he dared to approach Mr. Thompson, the foreman crushed his dream with a scoff, a whirlwind of disdain. "What do you know about denim, boy?" The words stung. But Mateo, his chest tight with defiance, resolved to keep trying. With each dismissal, his spirit only grew more resolute. Weeks melted into one another, the reality of economic injustice sinking deeper into his bones. Each insult from Mr. Thompson was a brick in a wall Mateo desperately wanted to tear down. Then, one fateful day, a terrible accident on the factory floor sent panic rippling through the crowd. Mateo dove in, helping the injured with courage that surprised even him. His bravery ignited something profound in his fellow workers. They realized, amidst the smoke and fear, their unity was stronger than the overseer's chains. Could Mateo inspire a revolution? As he stood up, facing a furious Mr. Thompson, the eyes of the factory were upon him. Would this moment expose not just the foreman's prejudice but the fractures in their society? The tension crackled in the air, amplified by the grim faces surrounding them. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The factory hummed with anxiety and hope as Mateo took a deep breath, heart pounding. Could the love for his family and the dreams he held inspire the change they all desperately needed? When shadows fell over San Francisco, the question lingered like an echo. Would this young dreamer, against all odds, find a way to light the path toward justice, or would the weight of the world tighten its grip? As the sun dipped below the horizon, uncertainty hung heavy, promising a dramatic next chapter in Mateo's remarkable journey. Mateo felt the weight of silence envelop the factory as he stood facing Mr. Thompson. The foreman's sneer twisted into a frown, and the air thickened with tension. Around him, the workers shuffled nervously, eyes flickering between their boss and this defiant boy. Mateo's heart thundered in his chest, yet he refused to let fear claim him. "I'm not just a boy," Mateo said, his voice trembling but resolute. "I have an idea that can change everything for us." He could feel the presence of every laborer behind him, a collective breath held tight in anticipation. Mr. Thompson scoffed, arms crossed defiantly. "And I suppose you think they'll listen to a mere child, huh?" His laughter echoed, dripping with condescension. Yet, Mateo pressed on, "What if we could make denim that fits better, lasts longer? It'll be something the miners need. We toil for them every day." They deserve something that shows we're strong, that we're capable. His words poured out like molten metal, carving a path through the thick fog of doubt. The murmurs began to rise, like the first gentle stirrings of a storm on the horizon. Mateo glanced at the faces surrounding him. He saw the flicker of hope sparking in their eyes, igniting a flame that had long been extinguished by hardship. "Listen to him," shouted a burly man named Francisco, his voice booming in the silence. "Yes, right. We barely get anything back for the work we give. What do we have to lose?" Another worker chimed in, a glimmer of fierce determination igniting in the hearts of his companions. Mr. Thompson's expression darkened. Panic morphed into fury, and he stepped closer to Mateo, demanding, "You think I'll let a child tell me how to run this factory? You'll only cause trouble." Mateo stood tall, words catching in his throat but fueled by the support surrounding him. "People need genes that work as hard as we do. I promise if we all come together, we can show them the power of our labor." As the factory buzzes, Mateo felt electricity swarming through the room. Workers began to nod in agreement, small gestures transforming into a chorus of support. "Let us hear him out," someone shouted from the back, and the sound of shuffling feet moving towards Mateo was thunderous. In this moment, the factory seemed alive, pulsing with hope. Mateo's heart soared as he saw men and women rallying, standing shoulder to shoulder. It was no longer just about a boy's dream. It became a collective fight for dignity and respect. Yet, the danger loomed larger. Mr. Thompson glared, veins popping at his temples. This was insubordination he wouldn't easily swallow. "You'll regret this," he seethed, throwing one last warning. As Mateo felt the collective strength behind him, he understood that the fight ahead would be steep. Would they risk everything to challenge a system designed to crush them? He locked eyes with his fellow laborers, who had also found courage in their collective uncertainty. United, they stood on the brink of something monumental. Would this spark of rebellion ignite a flame that would change their fates forever, or would fear snuff it out before it had a chance to shine? With the factory transformed into a battleground of dreams and the will to fight, the question resonated. Could a group of underdogs stoke a revolution powerful enough to challenge an unyielding overseer? The clang of machinery filled the air, and as the sun cast long shadows across the floor, one thing remained clear. The journey was just beginning. What awaited Mateo and his comrades just beyond the dream of better genes was a battle that would redefine their very existence. Mateo stood tall, his heart pounding in unison with the rhythm of the factory machines. The support of his fellow workers felt like a warm blanket wrapping around him, fueling his courage despite Mr. Thompson's furious demeanor. The foreman's face was a storm cloud, dark and swirling, ready to unleash his wrath. "Enough of this nonsense," Mr. Thompson shouted, slamming his hand against a table, rattling it loudly. "You think a bunch of overworked laborers can just demand changes? This is my factory." A murmur of defiance rippled through the crowd. Mateo didn't waver. He raised his chin, eyes blazing with determination. "This isn't just your factory. It's ours. We pour our sweat into this place every day. We deserve to be heard." The tension hung thick in the air, but hope crackled as the workers rallied behind Mateo. Francisco's voice boomed again, urging more voices to join in. "Yes, right. We work harder than anyone, and we get scraps in return." The energy in the factory shifted. The realization that they were not alone washed over them like a tide. Each face reflected the weariness of days unending, of dreams dimmed but also a flicker of something greater, a shared vision of justice. Mr. Thompson's fury morphed into something more desperate. "You'll be begging for your old jobs back. I won't let a boy lead a rebellion in my factory." Ignoring the threat, Mateo felt a surge of conviction. "If you won't support us, then we'll find a way to make our own genes. We'll show the miners what craftsmanship means." His voice broke through the fog of fear enveloping the workers, leaving echoes of inspiration in its wake. "Yes." A voice called out from the back, bright and eager. More workers joined in, cheering and shouting. Suddenly, the factory felt alive with passion. Mr. Thompson's expression shifted from rage to panic. He glanced around, realizing he might lose control for the first time. You think you can just walk out? You'll be in the streets. I'll make sure no one hires you again. Mateo took a step closer, heart racing. Tell us, if we leave, where do we go? What do we have left? Together, we have everything. A profound silence draped over the crowd as Mateo's words resonated deeply. For too long they had endured silence, paid their dues, and accepted the scraps. They were tired of living in fear. Doubt no longer lingered in his mind. This was a moment to seize. Let us gather our tools, he urged. Let us show them what we can build together. With every word, the energy escalated, until the suffocating silence shattered into a chorus of agreement. Workers began to step forward, arms raised high, as if holding invisible banners of rebellion aloft. What if we didn't just make jeans? A woman proposed, eyes sparkling with inspiration. What if we made something that represents who we are? Something bold, something the miners will trust. Another added, excitement sparking like fireworks around them. Whispers of possibilities filled the air. Mateo felt the walls that had confined them for so long crumble. Together, they envisioned a future where their skills were not wasted, where they could create denim that symbolized pride and grit. But Mr. Thompson wouldn't go down without a fight. You'll see, he sneered, backing away. You think your little dreams can topple my empire? You're merely playing around. The laughter from the workers beat back the fear, echoing in the cavernous space. Mateo felt the wave of hope wash over him, strong and unbreakable. Yet deep down, he knew the road ahead would be fraught with obstacles. Their daring plan might attract a storm like they had never seen before. A question loomed over them: were they truly ready to face the consequences of their newfound courage? As they began to gather supplies for their ambitious venture, Mateo felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. Every heartbeat resonated with the thrill of possibility, but it came with a weight of fear. What would they risk to chase this dream? With their resolve firm and the factory buzzing with a new purpose, the air crackled with uncertainty and promise. Could they truly reshape their destinies? Or would it all come crashing down before they ever got started? As the workers rallied, the atmosphere shifted. Determination replaced timidity, and the factory floor buzzed with excitement. Mateo stood among them, empowered by their shared resolve. They had a vision, now a dream, not only of jeans, but of an identity forged from their struggles. The clinking of tools echoed as they gathered the materials they would need. Each clang sent a rush of adrenaline through Mateo's veins. They were no longer just laborers. They were creators. The idea of their own brand ignited a fire in his heart. Let's South meet at my place after work, Mateo suggested, raising his voice to be heard over the growing din. We can sketch out our designs and assign tasks. His enthusiasm was met with nods and murmurs of agreement. By the end of the shift, the workers were filled with purpose. They knew that creating their own denim line wouldn't be easy. They would need to learn quickly, adapt, and work harder than ever. Each of them brought unique skills: sewing, dyeing, pattern making. Every lost hour of sleep would be worth it if they succeeded. With the evening sun slipping below the horizon, the group gathered in the dim light of Mateo's cramped but welcoming home. The walls were plastered with old newspaper clippings, and a map of the nearby mining towns hung prominently. It was a hub of dreams and possibilities. As they settled in, the air hummed with contemplation and promise. Mateo cleared his throat, eyes glinting with the last rays of the sun. This isn't just about making jeans. It's about our community. It's about pride. How we represent ourselves to the world. His voice trembled with passion. A hushed silence enveloped them. Then Francisco spoke up. What if we put our stories on every tag? Each stitch a testament to who we are? The suggestion resonated with them, igniting further discussion. They shared their personal tales, anecdotes laced with struggles and triumphs. By the time they drafted their first design, a sense of family formed among them. This venture wasn't just business. It was a movement. But as they planned, a sense of foreboding lingered. Mateo could hardly shake off the echo of Thompson's menacing words. He won't let us go easily, Mateo admitted, looking around the room. What if he tries to stop us? The workers exchanged glances, and uncertainty crept in. The stakes had grown. They weren't just standing up for their rights anymore. They were challenging an empire. "He might try," said a woman named Clara, her hands clenched tightly. "But it's our lives at stake. We can't back down now." Her conviction swept through the room like a gust of wind, turning doubt into determination. Emboldened, they finalized their logo, a simple, bold design that represented unity and strength. Mateo grinned as he imagined the first pair of jeans coming off their own production line, a symbol of their journey from laborers to creators. But as they celebrated, Mateo felt an unsettling thrum of worry. Was their passion enough to protect them from the foreman's wrath? The thought haunted him. Morning light found them asleep at the table, dreams swirling and stories intertwining. But when the sun rose, it brought both hope and the promise of confrontation. Their newly unified spirits would be tested. All of them understood it wouldn't be just about making jeans anymore. It would mean standing tall against the man who had stripped them of their dignity. Was Mateo ready to fight not only for their dream but against the very forces that would try to crush it? The factory called again, and with it, the reality of their choices loomed. Would they face Thompson together, or would fear scatter them before they ever had the chance to stand united? The alarm buzzed through the dim room like a warning shot, pulling Mateo from his restless sleep. He rubbed his eyes, trying to shake off the remnants of uneasy dreams. They had made plans, and today felt like the tipping point. As he prepared for the day, the wind howled outside, a somber reminder of the storm he anticipated. After a quick breakfast, he pulled on an old denim shirt, the fabric worn yet comforting. Each frayed seam echoed the struggles they shared. Mateo stepped outside, letting the chill bite at his cheeks, hoping the day would bring courage along with the sharp air. The factory loomed ahead, a gray monument of industry that had both given and taken from them. This was it, time to put their vision into action. As he entered the factory, the noise hit him like a wave. Machines roared and the air smelled of oil and sweat. But beneath that din he sensed something different. There was unity now, a whisper of hope flowing through every worker's stride. Mateo spotted Francisco by the sewing machine. "Ready?" Mateo asked, adrenaline spiking through him. Francisco nodded, but his brow creased with concern. "What if Thompson finds out?" he whispered, casting a wary glance over his shoulder. "He will," Mateo replied, locking eyes with his friend. "But we can't turn back. Not now." Their brief moment of doubt melted away as more workers joined them. Clara arrived, arms loaded with fabric swatches they had gathered. She tossed them onto the table and grinned, a spark in her eyes. "Let us show him what we can do." With every passing hour, they pored over sketches, each detail a testament to their stories. They laughed, they debated, and whenever fear crept in, someone reminded the others of their resolve. Each stitch, each pattern spoke of resilience springing from hardship. Just then, a shadow fell across their table, the oppressive presence of Thompson looming above them. "What are you lot doing?" His voice cut through the excitement like a knife, dripping with menace. Mateo's heart raced. He could feel the tension in the air. "We're working on a new line," Mateo said, forcing himself to meet Thompson's gaze. "Working on taking my profits, you mean?" Thompson chuckled, a low rumble that echoed through the factory. "You think you can just do whatever you like?" Every worker's breath seemed to hitch as they held their ground. Mateo stepped forward, feeling the weight of his community behind him. "We're taking back what's ours. Our stories deserve to be told." Thompson's eyes narrowed, and for a moment, silence enveloped them. The tension was palpable. Just then, a familiar voice broke the stillness. "You can't silence us anymore." It was Clara, stepping beside Mateo, fierce and unyielding. "Together we're more than just workers," she cried. "This is our stand." The solidarity among them surged like a tidal wave, pushing back against the foreman's threat. Thompson glared, rage flickering in his eyes. Then, with a dismissive wave, he turned to walk away, but not before issuing a warning. "Do what you want. I'll be watching." As he left, the impact of his words lingered in the air, but it wasn't enough to dampen their spirits. Mateo could see it in their eyes. Fear was transforming into something else: defiance, courage. "Today marks the beginning," he shouted, and the others echoed his sentiment, their voices rising in unison. But as they returned to their work, the shadow of Thompson loomed over them. Mateo could feel doubt creeping in again. Would they really be able to stand up to him, or was this just the beginning of a harder fight? A decision loomed ahead. Would they persevere and forge their identities, or would Thompson's threats fracture their newfound unity? The clock ticked loudly, counting down the minutes to their next move. Would the fire of their dreams be enough to fight back, or would fear snuff it out before it even had a chance to shine? As the day wore on, the energy in the factory felt contagious. Mateo looked around and saw a sense of purpose radiating from his friends and co-workers. Each sewing machine hummed in harmony, as if they were all part of a larger melody that spoke of resilience and newfound determination. The fear that had once held them captive began to dissipate, replaced by the fire of ambition. "Let us brainstorm names for our line," suggested Clara, her voice ringing out above the noise. This was more than just about fabric. It was about rebirth. Mateo's heart quickened as the idea of giving voice to their creation took shape. The possibilities seemed endless. "Something that represents us," Francisco said, excitement evident in his eyes. "Something that tells our story, like resilience or unity." Mateo chimed in. "Those are good, but what about revolution?" Clara added, her enthusiasm contagious. The sound of her suggestion lingered in the air, sparking imaginations. "I love that," Mateo replied. "Captures everything we are fighting for. It's bold and represents a shift." As they played around with ideas, they began to sketch out their designs. Patterns and colors sprang to life on paper, each creation a beacon of hope. With each stroke of their pencils, walls began to crumble, giving way to dreams. But just as the atmosphere buzzed with creativity, doubt slithered back in. Mateo glanced at the clock, an all too familiar anxiety creeping into his thoughts. "What if Thompson tries to shut us down before we're ready?" he asked, unable to suppress the worry. "Then we push back harder," Clara responded defiantly. "We stay united no matter what." The room grew silent, the weight of her words sinking in. One worker, Celeste, who had been quietly stitching nearby, finally spoke up. "We've worked too hard to let fear win. It's now or never." Her voice cut through the uncertainty like a blade, igniting a collective nod from everyone. They were all in this together, each with their own battles but now sharing a common goal. Mateo felt something shift deep within him. It was more than just courage. It was a sense of belonging. Since arriving years ago, he felt lost in the vastness of the factory and the world. But now, he had a place. He had a voice. He had purpose as the afternoon light streamed through the factory windows, illuminating their workspace. Mateo caught sight of Clara adjusting some fabric and thought about how far they'd come. He could sense the tides turning. But outside, the wind roared with anxiety, and deep down he feared Thompson's shadow still lingered, waiting for any sign of weakness. "Let us take a break," Mateo suggested. They all agreed, the energy of creativity still humming in the air. They stepped outside, the raw gust of wind greeting them like an old friend. They huddled together, sharing laughs and dreams in the blistering cold, each heart beating to the rhythm of possibility. Yet, that same wind brought whispers of uncertainty. Just then, Clara broke the silence. "Look, if we're going to do this, we need a plan. A real plan. We can't just sit around and hope." Her words wrestled with Mateo's best hopes, and he realized she was right. Each of them needed to be prepared for what might come next. What if it didn't just stop with Thompson's threat? Mateo turned to his friends, a sense of urgency flaring in his chest. "We need to act. Not just create, but to protect what is ours." But how? They didn't have the resources or backup. Silence fell, their smiles dimming slightly, fear trying to claw its way back into their hearts. As the wind whipped around them, the reality hit hard. They were standing at a crossroads. Would they defend their dreams and fight for their legacy, or would Thompson's oppressive grip swallow them whole? In that moment, Mateo felt the weight of possibility and fear intermingling. The stakes were higher than they imagined, and every heartbeat echoed the urgency to find answers. With a clenched jaw and a fierce look in his eye, Mateo knew they had to decide their own fate, and soon. What would their revolution look like? Would they dare to defy not only their foreman but the fears that had held them back for too long? Mateo paced back and forth on the cold concrete, the chill gnawing at him, but it wasn't the wind bothering him. It was the weight of their dreams alongside the fear of what might await them. The laughter of his friends faded into the background as thoughts spiraled. What if we fail? What if we lose everything? But there was no time for those thoughts. Clara had already started laying out a plan, her brows furrowing in concentration. We need to gather resources. I know a couple of places in the area. If we ask around, maybe we can find someone willing to help. Help? Mateo echoed, skeptical. Who would want to help us? We're just a group of workers. Francisco chimed in, his voice steady. We're more than that. We're a movement. People want change. They want to support something real. Mateo stopped and looked at his friends. He could see the spark of belief mirrored in their eyes, and the conviction began to seep into him as well. Okay, he affirmed, nodding slowly. Let us make a list of what we need. Fabrics, sewing machines, maybe some legal advice about our rights. Clara smiled, enthusiasm flooding her face. Exactly. We have to show Thompson that we're serious about this. We can't just sit back and wait for him to make the next move. The energy shifted. The wind felt less menacing, and the cold brought a certain clarity. They got to work, jotting down ideas, and each suggestion unfurled hope like petals. Mateo's pen danced across the paper, sketching out a rough blueprint of what they envisioned. As he outlined the layout of their imagined workspace, he felt a surge of belonging. This could be something. This could really change their lives. Hours passed, and the factory felt alive again. Laughter erupted from the group as they shared snippets of their lives' dreams they had put on hold, stories of their families. What drove them beneath the weight of labor? It was freeing. Mateo realized these weren't just co-workers. They were family now. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from behind the factory walls, interrupting their exuberance. Hearts dropped. Mateo felt his stomach tighten. What was that? Clara's face paled. It sounded like something broke in the storage room. Or someone is checking up on us. Francisco added, the seriousness of his voice wrapping around them like a cloak of dread. Mateo motioned for silence. They all stood still, ears straining to catch any sound, hoping it was nothing. A few seconds felt like hours until they could hear the sound of footsteps approaching. Who's there? Mateo called out, summoning more courage than he felt. The response came in the form of a shadow breaking through the doorway. It was Thompson, his eyes cold and calculating. Working hard or hardly working? He sneered, analyzing the papers sprawled before them. Mateo's heart raced. This was the moment they had to stand their ground. Clara stepped forward, her voice unwavering. We're planning our future, Thompson. We're not going to be silenced any longer. The tension was palpable, the air thick with anxiety and defiance. Mateo's pulse hammered against his ribs. Would they have the courage to push back? Would they fold under pressure? Or would they face the fight head-on? As Thompson's gaze narrowed on Mateo and his friends, the question hung in the air like a blade ready to drop. What would their revolution cost them, and would they be willing to pay? With fear and resolve intertwined, Mateo's voice was barely a whisper but carried all the weight of their dreams. We're not backing down, are we? The door loomed large behind Thompson, but the path forward was fraught with uncertainty. They had made their choice, and soon the confrontation would reveal whether they would soar or stumble. Mateo felt fear grip him like a vice. Thompson stood there, a dark cloud looming over their small gathering of hope. The minutes stretched into eternity as they all absorbed the weight of his presence. Planning your future? Thompson scoffed, his voice dripping with mockery. You think you can change anything? You work for me. I decide your future. Clara took a step closer, her eyes shining bright with defiance. Maybe, But we're tired of being treated like nothing. We deserve better, and we're ready to fight for it. Mateo's heart raced. Clara's words were like a match struck in the dark. The fire ignited something deep within him, something he didn't know he still had. Thompson narrowed his eyes, and for a moment, Mateo instinctively thought he saw fear flicker across Thompson's face. This is cute, but cute won't pay the bills or keep you out of trouble. Says the man who profits off our sweat, Francisco snapped, stepping into the light. We know how hard we work, and we will stand together. Mateo felt a swell of pride for his friends. They were brave, and bravery was contagious. He clenched his fists, feeling the warmth of determined energy zipping through him. Together, we're stronger than you think, Mateo said, finding his voice. This is bigger than us. It's about everyone who's being pushed down. It's about the lives we want for our families. Thompson's smirk faltered, yet he quickly plastered it back on. You think so? I could crush your little dream with a word. You'd have nowhere to turn. Then we'll turn to each other, Clara replied, firm and unwavering. What you don't understand is that we're not alone anymore. Others will join us, the workers, the ones who dream of something more. Frustration twisted Thompson's features. You're playing with fire, kid. You'll get burned. Trust me. Mateo gazed at his friends, feeling a surge of solidarity. Maybe we will. But we'd rather burn for something we believe in than live in silence. Silence hung in the air like a thick fog, and Mateo sensed the tension waves crashing between defiance and intimidation. Thompson's breathing quickened, his facade cracking under the pressure. I'll give you a chance to walk away, he warned, his voice chilling. Don't make me regret it. We're not backing down, Mateo confirmed, standing taller, the words echoing in his mind like a battle cry. Suit yourselves. Thompson glared at them one last time, the shadows shifting as he retreated through the doorway. As the door slammed shut behind him, a profound silence took hold that it felt unreal. Their defiance was still lingering in the air. Mateo turned to Clara and Francisco, whose expressions mirrored the cocktail of exhilaration and fear. What now? Clara whispered, as if asking the universe itself. Mateo realized their journey had just begun. Now we act. We gather our resources, talk to others, spread the word. We'll need a plan that's rock solid. Just then, Francisco's phone buzzed in his pocket, slicing through their moment. He quickly fished it out. It's Raul. He says he's heard that someone from the union might be able to meet with us. Could be our way to get help. Life surged through Mateo. Then we go. We put our plan in motion. They exited the factory, leaving behind the weight of fear. The night was cooler now, stars sparking like fireflies above them. Walking side by side, they could feel the spirit of change brewing, fueled by hope and solidarity. As they approached the rendezvous point, butterflies danced in Mateo's stomach. Would they be welcomed? Would they find someone willing to risk everything like they were? The turning point had arrived, and every second pulsed with potential. But something gnawed at the back of his mind, a distant unease, as if shadows still watched, waiting to strike. Would the risk they were taking be worth the reward they sought? Perhaps they would soon find out. What lay ahead might change everything, for better or worse. Mateo, Clara, and Francisco arrived at a small cafe a few blocks from the factory, their breaths visible in the cool night air. The neon sign flickered, casting a bluish hue over the pavement. Mateo's heart thudded, each beat echoing the thrill of the unknown. This was their moment to ignite real change. Inside, the warm scent of coffee enveloped them, a stark contrast to the chill outside. They scanned the room for Raul and the person from the union. A few rough-looking folks chatted at the far end, but no one stood out as a prospective ally. Are we sure this is the right place? Clara asked, her eyes darting around, seeking reassurance. Mateo nodded, swallowing hard. It has to be. Their attention was pulled to a table in the corner. A tall woman with silver-streaked hair was leaning over a mug, her fingers tracing the rim. Her presence seemed to command respect, and Mateo felt a flicker of hope. Raul? Mateo whispered, pointing. Clara and Francisco nodded, moving toward the table with guarded anticipation. As they approached, the woman looked up, her sharp gaze assessing them keenly. "Are you the ones looking for change?" she asked, a hint of curiosity lacing her voice. "Yes," Clara replied, her voice steady despite the nervous energy buzzing around them. "We need to talk about the conditions at the factory. We want to organize." "Right to it then," the woman said, setting her coffee down. "I'm Marisol and I've seen many fights, but few are willing to step into the ring. What makes you think you can win?" Mateo took a bold step forward. "Because we're tired of being silenced. We want to stand together to change how things are. We refuse to let fear define us anymore." Marisol's eyebrows shot up, impressed. "That kind of fire is what S needed. But let me be frank, you're going to face a lot of pushback." Thompson 1T go quietly. "Let him try," Francisco interjected, his voice firm. "We know what we stand for." Marisol paused, weighing their resolve. "Okay, let us say you're right. You need to be smart. You'll need allies, community support, people willing to take risks too." "What do you mean?" Mateo asked, feeling the gears of possibility turning in his mind. "I mean, you must reach out beyond your group. Talk to other workers, their families. Find out who else is suffering. You need a united front if you really want to challenge Thompson." Clara bit her lip, deep in thought. "But how do we even start?" Marisol leaned forward slightly, her voice firm yet encouraging. "By turning whispers into roars. Words have power. Set up meetings, create flyers, use social media, get people talking. The more voices you have, the louder you become." Mateo felt a swell of enthusiasm. "We can do that. We just need a plan." Marisol grinned, a glimmer of pride in her eyes. "Then let us get to work. I'll help you draft a message. We'll also need to gather any documentation you have about working conditions. They'll only listen if you present facts." The three friends exchanged excited glances. The plan was forming, and hope surged through Mateo's chest. Everything felt possible now. But in the back of his mind, Mateo couldn't shake the feeling that their defiance had raised more than just hopes. It had drawn attention. Thompson would not remain passive for long. As they began discussing strategies, Mateo caught a glimpse of someone watching from the cafe's window, a shadow lurking in the night. His heart plummeted as a chill ran down his spine. "Do you feel it?" he whispered to Clara. "Like something bad is coming?" "What do you mean?" she asked, concern wrinkling her brow. "Someone's out there." Mateo's pulse quickened, anxiety creeping in. Marisol turned, her expression sharpening as she caught on to Mateo's apprehension. "Stay alert. You might be stirring a hornet's nest." Mateo's stomach twisted. Now they had something to lose. The fight was becoming more real, and he wondered if they were ready for what was coming next. Would their courage be enough? As the safe haven of the cafe buzzed with possibilities around them, a sense of impending danger loomed heavily overhead. What would happen when Thompson struck back? It was a dangerous game and the stakes were rising. Could they truly rally the support they needed, or would they be crushed under the weight of their defiance? The day dawned gray and drizzly, reflecting the anxiety swirling in Mateo's heart. He stood outside the factory looking up at the building that had become both a prison and a cradle for his dreams. Today was the day they would launch their campaign, a chance to gather their voices and resources to truly challenge Thompson. Fear was an unwelcome guest, but it pushed him to remind himself why they were doing this. Inside, the machines roared, drowning out the whisper of uncertainty. Mateo felt the resolve of his fellow workers work like a balm around him, soothing the ragged edges of his nerves. Clara and Francisco had spread the word about their meeting, and he could sense the buzz of anticipation tingling in the air. People wanted change, and they were ready to stand together. As he walked toward the center of the factory floor, workers began to gather, forming a crowd that pulsed with energy. Mateo took a deep breath, feeling the weight of every hopeful heart surrounding him. It was time to fight for their future. "Listen up, everyone," Mateo shouted, his voice breaking through the hum of machines. Silence fell like a blanket, and every eye turned to him. "Today's the day we start our revolution. This isn't just about jeans. It's about respect and dignity for all of us. A murmur rippled through the crowd, sparking a collective fire. Raul has been talking to people at the union, and we've already begun drafting a plan, Clara added, stepping up beside him. We need your help. Every one of you has a story to tell. Every shred of evidence about what it's like to work here matters. Tell your stories. Share your histories. Francisco's voice boomed, his passion infectious. We're tired of being silenced. Let us show Thompson that our strength lies in our unity. Cheers erupted, each shout a rallying cry that swept through the factory. Mateo felt hope swell within him, spreading like wildfire through the crowd. He looked through the faces, no longer just fellow laborers but brothers and sisters, all driven by the same purpose. Yet, as they reveled in their unity, an uninvited tension loomed. Thompson might sense this uprising and retaliate. The threat lingered in the air, but Mateo shoved it aside, focusing on the simmering determination around him. Would they bend, or would they stand their ground? Suddenly, a loud crash interrupted the atmosphere. The factory doors flung open, and there stood Thompson, flanked by a couple of his foreman minions. He stormed in, eyes narrowed with rage. I've had enough of this nonsense, he roared, the sound reverberating off the walls. You think you can band together and demand change? You're nothing but a bunch of ants, and I will crush you. Mateo's heart raced, but he refused to let fear govern him any longer. We're not afraid of you any longer, he shouted back, his voice carrying more conviction than he knew he had. We are workers, and our voices matter. The workers behind him rallied, groaned louder as they shouted their support. This wasn't just a fight for better working conditions. It was a stand against oppression, an affirmation of their worth. Thompson's face twisted with fury. He wasn't used to being challenged. You'll regret this, he threatened. I can make sure you're blacklisted in every factory in this town. Do your worst. Mateo responded, adrenaline coursing through him, fueling his defiance. We'll find ways to support one another. Today marks the beginning of the end of fear. Thompson's expression softened slightly, a flicker of uncertainty dappling his features. Mateo noticed the shift and seized the moment. We're closing ranks, Thompson. You've pushed us too far. If you don't change your ways, you'll find no workers eager to toil for you. His words seemed to hang in the air, suspended by the palpable energy radiating from the crowd. Mateo glanced around at their hopeful faces, their collective strength shimmering around him like a shield. You think you can survive without us? Mateo continued, driven by purpose. We all know this factory runs on our sweat and diligence. It's time we claim what's rightfully ours and stop letting fear rule us. Thompson's eyes flicked between Mateo and the throng of workers, and for a moment, silence engulfed the factory, the world holding its breath. There it was, the looming threat replaced by a newfound, stubborn bravery echoing off the walls. Thompson stepped back, the fight visibly drained from him. If you think you can challenge me, he muttered before backing away, slipping out of the factory as workers cheered, voices rising in triumph. Relief washed over Mateo, mingling with a profound sense of possibility. They had faced down the fearsome overseer and emerged fortified. But the battle wasn't over. It had just begun. Gathering outside, they formed a circle filled with laughter, relief, trepidation, and joy. That evening, as Mateo walked home, he smiled and realized how far he and his friends had come. They weren't just working toward better genes. They were weaving stories, strength, and pride into every stitch. Together, they had ignited a movement that wouldn't be easily extinguished. The sun set behind the horizon, casting golden rays through the streets. With renewed energy, Mateo looked ahead, a bright future blossoming filled with hope. This was just the first step, but they would face whatever came together. And as always, before he reached his doorstep, one realization became clear. Never again would he stand alone. True power lies in unity, and together, they were unstoppable. Now, if you felt that spark of inspiration from Mateo's journey, you need to subscribe now. Don't miss out. This is the moment to show your support and keep joining us for more incredible stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, it really matters. And don't just keep these vibes for yourself. Comment your thoughts and feelings about this ending. Let us celebrate together. Share instantly this journey with at least 5 friends who need to witness this transformation and stoke the fire of hope and unity within their hearts. Don't wait not even one more second to share. True fans like you understand the importance of lifting each other up.